Instead of a 1-hour show tonight, we're doing a version that's half that size, which would equal 30 minutes or a half hour, depending on how you look at it. Anywho, this is The Sweat. She's Jessie. I'm Emerson. Jessie?
All right, getting right to it. Say hello to our NFL panel. They're here to discuss some news of the day. Trade deadline day. DraftKings contributors Jeff Ulrich, Reed Fowler, and the fantasy girl Rosalie Michaels.
Kind of quiet at the deadline, am I right?
Yeah,
all
what
right.
a snooze fest.
All right, guys and gal. Report surfacing today, though, that the Jets were looking to trade Le'Veon Bell before said deadline, but it was later reported they would keep the running back. But where there's smoke, there's fire, am I right? Reed, how do you feel about Le'Veon Bell this week in an awesome matchup against Miami?
I don't know how to answer your questions when you ask me if you're right, because clearly you are. The Jets are terrible.
Yeah.
I know they're Jeff's team. I know he really enjoys the Jets if it's not the Jaguars. So, look, Le'Veon Bell is fine. His schedule is nice. That's why he was a buy low candidate season long. That's why when he goes against Miami, Washington, the Giants, he's going to be in these matchup spots where you're going to like him. So it's still good for fantasy. Kind of weird, but this team is really going south.
Oh, Rosalie, I know you're going to roster Le'Veon this weekend, right?
You know what? I don't hate it against Miami. You know, the only problem is the Jets are not using Le'Veon as the workhorse back that he is. I don't know why you pay a crap ton of money for somebody and then don't utilize him in his best asset way, which is workhorse back. Workhorse back, you have a quarterback who needs him. Use him more. I mean, the last 3 games, he's had less than 20 touches. That's not what we're used to out of a Le'Veon. But yeah, you know, you got to like it against Miami. Miami's worst games this year were still not that bad as far as what they gave up to the running back position. The Jets just don't do enough plays per game. They do the worst in the league at 51. So it's hard, but he might be a good play this week.
All right, Jeff, at this point, we know not to expect much from Le'Veon Bell, but do you expect much from him this week?
I mean, it's a great spot just on paper, right? But there's so many factors that go into this. I mean, Rosalie just mentioned the pace of play, which is a big thing. I mean, the Jets don't run many plays. And yeah, Le'Veon Bell's still seeing 85% of the snaps, but I mean, like 14, 15 touches in these games isn't really getting it done. He hasn't come through as a consistent PPR option, which I really thought he would at some point. And now he's all the way up to 7,700 on DraftKings. Look, it's a really big spot. We just saw what James Conner did last night. I mean, he just ripped apart this incredibly weak Miami Dolphins run defense. But anything Jets right now is just, it's toxic. It's hard to trust. Doesn't mean he can't go off on the spot. He easily could, but it's a boom or bust thing.
Does it kind of feel like the Dolphins could actually win this game? I know they're bad and they're terrible, but the Jets tried to ship off every single person besides Darnold. This could be a spot actually for Miami to do well.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, It's like I don't know how much confidence Lev Bell and crew are coming in here and Adam Gase after trying to be traded today. It's a strange situation.
A couple guys on Facebook saying Bell's so overrated. Heard Bailey saying Bell needs an O-line.
True.
All right, let's move on. Bengals are on a bye, and they're still losing. They've decided to make a change at quarterback, benching Andy Dalton on his birthday, I might add, and rolling with rookie Ryan Finley moving forward. Are you dropping all Bengals, or is anyone worth hanging on to, Rosalie? I mean, Finley is like an unknown commodity here.
Yeah, it just seems to me they're placing the blame in the wrong position here. Everybody knows the problem with that offense is the offensive line. The offensive line is 30th ranked, plus the amount of drops that they've had. They've had 21 dropped passes, which is first in the league. So, you know, that's a lot. When you look at the team pass plays per game, they're number 1. The attempts, they're number 1. The red zone attempts, they're number 3. But the supporting cast efficiency, number 31. So they're placing the blame in the wrong area. Yeah, you know what? Maybe Finley will fire him up. But if you look at his college rookie QBR rating, you're going to get more of the same. And even at preseason, you know, he had 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, but 4 sacks. The problem is the offensive line. Look at what Mixon can't do.
Jeff, happy birthday, Andy Dalton. Holding on to any Bengals here?
I mean, look, Tyler Boyd is still getting targeted, so it's a crappy conversion rate that he's getting, but it's not like he can just go and drop Tyler Boyd, a guy who's could get 10 targets the rest of the way per game, right? So, I mean, it's kind of the same with Joe Mixon. Even though Joe Mixon is is so inconsistent behind that offensive line. I mean, you can't just go ahead and drop a guy who's getting 20 touches a game. Those guys don't just grow on trees out there. It's not like there's just a 20-touch running back on your waiver wire or anything. So you're obviously not dropping those guys. It's the peripheral guys that really might lose value here. Tate, Eifert, who we thought might get traded. Those guys really just become almost nothings, right? So until we see Finley work at least a little bit, I have a little bit of hope that, like this rookie quarterback can come in and spark the Bengals a bit. I agree with Rosalie. It's not like it's all Andy Dalton's fault, but at the same time, it's not like Andy Dalton is out there creating plays either. He's throwing it away. He's just trying to avoid sacks at this point. So it's possible the QB change does some good for these guys. But, other than Boyd, Mixon, the obvious, there's nothing else that really excites me there.
Reed, what do you think?
Yeah, Auden Tate actually is really interesting. You always see these third string or these second string quarterbacks really hone in on the preseason guys. And Auden Tate has gotten 30 targets for the last 3 weeks, so 10 a week. He's got a ton. Mixon, he hasn't eclipsed 65% of the snaps. And you just Tyler Boyd. I mean, Tyler Boyd was getting targeted by Dalton. So I can't see this happening. I would drop all of them. Auden Tate is the most interesting from a DFS perspective.
All right, guys, need you to be a little quicker on this one here. Did you hear that? I'm pretty sure that's a kettlebell. This is really weird. I don't know what the hell people are doing above us.
I don't think they heard that.
Let's not sleep on this Kenyon Drake trade, though. Going from Miami to Arizona, out in your neck of the woods, Rosalie. The Cardinals had a hard time scoring on the Saints last weekend with no David Johnson and Chase Edmonds, who was in Reed's lineup, getting hurt. They are 9.5-point underdogs on Thursday against the undefeated 49ers. Should that spread be higher, Jeffrey?
Yeah, it should be higher. San Francisco, dominant defensive line. Arizona coming in banged up. I like Kenyon Drake, but he's got like 2 days to get acclimatized here. I just don't think it's a good matchup in any facet of this game for Arizona against just the powerhouse that is San Francisco right now. So I think this should be higher.
How much interest do you have in Kenyon Drake? And thoughts on this? Reed, spread.
Don't like it. I agree with Jeff here. Spread should be higher. San Francisco is allowing the second least amount of scores in terms of the offensive drives against their opponents.
Should the spread be higher, Rosalie?
I say no. Actually, no, it shouldn't be higher. Yeah, you look at 7 touchdowns that San Francisco got against Carolina last week. That's a lot. But if you look at the history of these two teams, and if you know a little something that I know is that I will actually be at this game on Thursday.
Ooh.
But, yeah, so I'll be there rooting for the Cardinals, so that always gives them a little extra juice. But the last 2 games in Arizona, San Francisco 15, Cardinals 18. San Francisco 15, Cardinals 18. They play them well at home, so I think this should be a closer spread.
Looking forward to her live report on
live
Thursday.
Reports, go live on Insta, Rosalie. We'll be watching. All right,
no candles from Rosalie.
You three enjoy your night. We're going to rip through some of the NBA games after this break.
It's Brendan Glasheen, and with your DraftKings Fantasy Flash, start making flashcards. We've got a quiz coming up on 2019 Steelers running backs. James Conner left Heinz Field with his right arm in a sling after Pittsburgh's win over the Dolphins Monday night. Head coach Mike Tomlin said Conner has an AC joint injury and is being evaluated. He added in his press conference Tuesday that Conner will likely remain limited this week, but did not rule him out for their Week 9 matchup against Indy. Conner wasn't the only banged-up Steelers back, though. We briefly saw 2019 fourth-rounder Benny Snell Jr. in action. He's being evaluated for a knee injury. Fellow backup Jalen Samuels is coming back from arthroscopic knee surgery performed less than a month ago. He was inactive on Monday, but Tomlin says he will be ready to go this week. So the only fully healthy back for the Steelers right now appears to be former practice squad member Trey Edmonds, so he might see some action in Week 9. Oh boy, these injuries are poor timing as the Steelers will be tested against a solid Colts run defense. Indy holding opponents' running backs to the 6th least DraftKings points per game this year.
Tonight's fantasy NBA slate, it's not big, but it does pack some quality. And so does our panel this evening. Senior columnist Shadow League, Carm Phillips, RotoWire's Nick Whalen, and Matt LaMarca of the Action Network. Hey, everybody.
All right, let's go ahead and have you chase or fade the following. And just a reminder, we got to kind of rip through these. So Anthony Davis is the most expensive player tonight at 10-3. Chase or fade, he needs to be owned, Karin.
Need is like the problem word in a sentence because he's so expensive. So as we know, I'm the value guy. So if you really need to spend some money tonight, go ahead and take Anthony Davis. I always want him on my team, but this is based on how much money you have. So figure out that need or want with this one.
Matt, what are you doing here? He needs to be owned. What do you think?
You know me, I like to make it rain. So
Yes.
I'll pay up for Anthony Davis. I think we've kind of seen floor games from him. He's shooting below his career averages from the field right now, but his usage rate is up, and he has a really nice matchup tonight against Memphis. We think of Memphis as this slow-paced defensive team, but that's not the case to start the year. They're fourth in pace, so I expect the Lakers to put up a bunch of points tonight, and Davis eventually is due for one of these ceiling games. I think there's a good chance it happens tonight.
Nick, chaser fade. He needs to be owned.
Yeah, I'm with Carr, and that need is maybe a little too strong, but I agree with Matt that I think we've really only seen his floor so far. You know, the Lakers have tried to get Anthony Davis involved. They've made a point to really feed him the ball earlier in these games, and I think that's resulted in him not being quite as efficient as we've seen in the past, but he's getting it done defensively. He leads the league in block rate among players who played at least 100 minutes. As Matt said, his usage rate is way up. I think that's going to continue. And I like his chances tonight against the bottom 5 defense in Memphis.
Maddie, Trae Young has put up 260 fantasy point performances in his first 3 games. Chaser fade, he does that again tonight against the Heat.
60 is a really big
It is really big.
But I'm going to chase it because why not? Trae Young right now is putting up a James Harden-esque workload for the Hawks. He's got a usage rate near 40%, assist rate over 40%. And this is actually a nice matchup against Miami. They're playing at the 3rd fastest pace to start the year. Early, that could always change, and Jimmy Butler is expected to be back tonight. But the best part is at 9K, we don't need him to score 60 points. If he can get you to 50, that would be plenty, and there's no reason to think he can't do that given the way he's played to start the season.
You believe, Nick?
60 is a little too high for me. I know the assists have been off the charts. I think he has 9 assists in every game so far. He's rebounding better, so he's giving you more than just the scoring and the threes. But Miami's a good defense. I mean, they're a top 5 defense so far, and they get arguably their best defender in Jimmy Butler back tonight. I mean, even guys like Kendrick Nunn, Goran Dragic have good size. They can throw at Trae Young. I like Bam Adebayo to be able to slow down the pick and roll with John Collins. And, you know, we know Trae Young is one of the best 3-point shooters in the league. Matchup-wise, Miami has given up more threes in terms of percentage of shots than any other team in the league, but they've also defended the three just about as well as anyone. They're 3rd in the league in 3-point defense. So I think we could see a lot of attempts from Trae Young, but I trust Miami to defend him well.
All right, Carr and Trae Young down in your neck of the woods.
In the same way that last season I was chasing everything that James Harden did, he was like my slate pick every night I was on here. Like Trae Young is going to be that guy for me this year. It's not just because I'm down here in Atlanta, I get to see them every night on TV. It was last year when I was at practice, Lloyd Pierce, you know, he was talking about, you know, especially this year, how they want to shoot 43s a game. I remember Vince Carter telling me that, you know, during his rookie season, there was so much on Trae because he had to be their number 1 scorer and their number 1 assist guy to get everybody going. That's tough to do on a rookie. But now you see with this team, they have the pieces. I always believe the Hawks are going to be a playoff team, so I'm taking Trae with everything because he's the perfect player with the right pieces finally in the perfect system. I think it's going to be a huge year for them, and I'm taking him tonight.
Nick, Denver's Will Barton has averaged more than 26 fantasy points per game so far this year, but I mean, it's really been boom or bust, totals of 34, 14, and 30. So chaser fade, he will boom once again and be the best value play on the slate.
I am a longtime Will Barton supporter dating back to his days at Memphis. So I have really no choice but to chase this. I'm surprised really how many minutes he's seeing early on. You know, it kind of seemed like last year he got hurt, I think in game 1, and missed so much time that by the time he came back, guys like Malik Beasley and Torrey Craig had kind of encroached on his minutes. And then with the addition of Jeremy Grant, you know, into that forward rotation this year, you know, I kind of wondered if he'd be able to work his way back in. But early on, the results have been great. He's been turning it up defensively. He's got a steal in every game. Like you said, always kind of been a boomer bust guy, but he is the type of player that whether he plays 20 minutes or 30 minutes, he's going to get his shots off no matter what. So, you know, it's just kind of a matter of whether they're falling, but I'm willing to trust Will Barton tonight.
Karan, are you going to trust him?
I trust him, but I'm going to fade him here just because of the way Denver plays. When you think about their hierarchy, it goes Jokic, Murray, Harris. Then they have they got a whole bunch of guys that like kind of play the same position, do the same thing, and they're very, very deep. So that's why guys that have a good game one night and then come down to reality the next night because of the way they spread the ball out. So give me a fade on him, but I'm still a believer in Will Barton.
Boomer bust for you, Maddie.
I'll go with a boom. I like Will Barton. Last year was a bit of a down year for him, but historically he's been a fantasy point per minute kind of guy. And he's playing, 28 minutes a night right now. The one game that he busted this season, he only saw 20 minutes in like a weird fluky type performance. So as long as the playing time is there, I feel pretty confident he's going to produce for me. And I feel pretty good about the minutes right now. So I'm in on Will Barton.
All right, gentlemen, hit us with those slate-approved picks. Who you think is a must-roster tonight? Karin.
Trey Young, splash from deep.
Matt.
Nick brought him up earlier. Bam Adebayo. Huge minutes right now with no Hassan Whiteside, and the dude can play.
All right, Nick.
Hey, my guy's Bam as well. 7,000 tonight. Hawks' interior defense has not been good. They're 29th in the league defending Bam's position. Alex Len's been a disaster so far. No depth behind him. I think Bam's the way to go tonight.
All right, thanks, guys. We still have those World Series showdown picks to get to and NHL lineups to build right after Pat Mayo lends a hand with this week's PGA Tour event.
Decky's the one who, now he's really getting close. He still hasn't won in a very long time, but he's starting to dial it in. Runner-up last week. So those are the type of guys, just at first glance, that I kind of lean to over someone like Rose, who we really haven't seen a ton of him in recent weeks.
Yeah, I think the last time he played was the Italian Open a few weeks ago. I think that's what it was. He was T15 there.
Yeah, that's about it, though. And before that, you have to go back a couple weeks even earlier. And he hasn't done much. It hasn't been terrible, but at the same time, he hasn't been in his best form either.
Yeah, he does have the best course history of anyone coming in, though. He has 5 starts here in the past decade. He has 4 top 7 finishes, including a win.
Yeah, and Rose is the type of guy, we know he can drive the ball well, can get going, handles a lot of conditions. I feel like he fits a lot of different types of courses, and this certainly can suit him. But at the same time, I think for me, not that I'm solely targeting guys that played on, during this Asian swing, but I do think it is kind of important that they either played, either at the CJ Cup or at the Zoizo last week.
If I look back, and we'll go long-term for this, past 75 rounds to give us a better sample in terms of par 5s gained on the field. The best in the field this week in China, Scott, Scheifele, Rory, Casey, Sung Jae, Hideki, Poulter, Bubba Watson, Sergio Garcia, Justin Rose. So of the names we kind of mentioned, if you had to pick between them, would you go with Hideki or Xander, do you think?
Think I would go with Hideki. The form has been spectacular. It does feel like he's building. Not that Xander's been bad. He was fine last week. But he is the defending champ. I have a feeling both are going to be pretty popular. But for me, I would lean with Decky. I think he's kind of getting back to that old Decky that we're used to seeing.
Any thoughts on him popping up in that par 5 scoring? 25-1 is the outright bet. So I'd imagine he's going to be priced like 9,700 would be my guess. And maybe he comes in substantially cheaper. I don't know. Or maybe he cracks 10,000 after another third place finish last week in Japan. But he's someone who does gain off the tee, even if it's a bit shorter than anything else. But I just find he's such a yo-yo week to week. And in these no-cut events, he gives him the extra time to actually come back and perform. I don't know how I feel with him. Am I ready to include Sung Jae along with the names that he's around, like the Finaus and Fleetwoods? Is he on that level? Because I don't know if he is. Maybe he is. Maybe I'm just wrong.
No, maybe we're just wrong, because I don't have him on that level either, which is why when you say if he's priced north of, say, like 9,500, that's a tough ask for me. I know, again, really good last week, well-rounded game. He can do in a lot of different areas, but at the same time, you kind of just alluded to this. He's also not the most consistent, where some of these other guys, it's almost automatic where where they're going to gain, and then you hope they're one weakness. He's kind of, I guess scrambling would probably be the weakest, but his irons aren't consistently great.
You have NHL questions, whether you know it or not.
Yeah.
Chris Wassel of Awesemo.com is here with the answers that you need.
Okay, Chris, 9-game slate, so help us choose between the following players, please, in a segment we call NHL Opening Face-Off. Starting with Roman Josi. He's a rich man signing an 8-year, $72 million contract. He's happy, and he's also the second most expensive D-man behind John Carlson. You grabbing Josi tonight, or are you playing a little paying up for Carlson?
You know what? Be perfectly honest, until Toronto shows me something where they can play some kind of defense or some semblance of it at home, I'm always piling on Carlson. This is one of those decisions where it's like, don't overthink this too much. The $200 is not going to kill you because you're going to be able to make it up in plenty of other places anyway.
All right, 2 centers returning from injury. Nashville gets back Matt Duchene, who's $6K on the slate, and David Krejci returns for the Bruins, priced at $4,100. Do you like either of these guys at their price tags, or are you fading them coming back from injury?
I'm actually doing a complete fade with both of them. As much as I like to play Duchene tonight, until Philip Forsberg returns, he's just not quite the same player. The two of them had unquestioned chemistry the first couple of weeks of the season. They produced unbelievably well. They generated a ton of scoring chances, almost like those two guys in Edmonton named Draisaitl and McDavid, almost at that level. So till the other comes back, as much as I like Duchene as a player, I'm fading him, and I'm certainly fading David Krejci because, let's be honest, the guy is a walking injury doormat.
Yeah, true. He's been injured quite a bit. 2 teams giving up the most goals on the slate. Red Wings and the Maple Leafs. Detroit will be at home against Edmonton. Toronto will be at home against Washington. Which top line would you rather stack, the Oilers or the Caps?
This is total brutality. I mean,
I know.
You can't go wrong with either one, really. The thing is with Detroit, you never quite know if they're going to play this god awful boring hockey that the coach Jeff Blashill just sort of preaches. Your safer bet is probably Washington, just for the simple fact that you're going to pay about the same price stack wise. Edmonton, you kind of have to sit there and go, well, do I pay for this? Do I pay up for that? But the problem is you're right around 19.5 to 20K with either one. So it's really your preference. For me personally, the idea of Ovechkin going against Toronto is very appealing here, almost too appealing. So that's where I'm going tonight.
Chris, it's that time. Slate approved pick time. Who is it going to be?
You know what? I look, if I put my hand, heart, and everything else into it, it's Alex Ovechkin. Just for the things that he said to the Toronto media this morning and this afternoon, which were priceless, by the way, and 100% accurate. You get the feeling that Ovechkin is going to have a performance tonight. Now, I will say this. If there is a backup plan tonight, and you might not have seen it today, but Pittsburgh is starting to get healthy very quietly. Matter of fact, Evgeny Malkin might be back as soon as this weekend or next week, and they just got a couple more players back. Take a look at Sidney Crosby, who has 99 points in 66 career games against the Philadelphia Flyers.
Lovely, Christopher. Lovely work as always.
Thank you.
Have a great night, my friend. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Showdown picks for Game 6 of the World Series. That's coming up next, folks.
What up? I'm Brendan Glasheen, and with your DraftKings Fantasy Flash, Ken Wisenhunt is out of Los Angeles. The Chargers fired their offensive coordinator Monday. Head coach Anthony Lynn admitted it was a tough decision, but simply felt a change was needed at this time. Chargers really haven't been getting it done, just 19.6 points per game, which ranks 23rd in the NFL. They are also the first team in the Super Bowl era, so that's more than 50 years, with 4 straight games under 40 rushing yards. That's with Austin Eckler and Melvin Gordon. Eckler's thrived in his pass-catching role pretty much all year, but don't be fooled. The Chargers' running game has been subpar since the start of the season. 2 big question marks come to mind with this news. Who calls the plays? Lynn did it in Buffalo as a coordinator a few years ago. Maybe he takes matters into his own hands, or he delegates from within or from the outside. And then, how does Philip Rivers feel about this? He and Wisenhunt have had a tight relationship, 2 stints as his offensive coordinator. Can't see how Rivers is thrilled with this. Chargers remain in the mix for an AFC playoff spot, 2 games out in the West and 2 games out of a wild card. They've got to get going, though, and fast. Quality Packers defense at home this Sunday, followed by 3 straight division games, 2 on the road.
Alrighty, so through 5 games in this World Series, the home field edge has been oddly non-existent. Astros leading the Nationals 3 games to 2 here. The away team winning each meeting. Game 6 tonight in Houston.
So let's get you those showdown picks with these 3 DraftKings contributors: Pierce Dietrich, Steve Buchanan, and Gary Thorne. Your captain is who, Pierce?
Strasburg. Backs against the wall. They don't have a bullpen they can trust. He's got to go. He's got to go deep. Strasburg can strike out anybody. There's plenty of strikeouts in this lineup. Correa, Jordan, Chirinos, even George Springer struck out 19 times in the playoffs. Plus, he keeps the ball in the ballpark. So not only does Strasburg score points, but he'll limit your opponents who have rostered Astro bats.
Gary, and your captain?
Yeah, I'm going to take it the other direction. I'm just going to go with Verlander. I think he's had 5 days of rest. He knows it's the last game he's going to appear in this series. He can empty the tank. I just think we're going to see vintage Verlander at some point in this series. And while I think only one of these 5 games has actually gone under the numbers so far in this series, this game just seems like it's going to be low scoring. So it's hard not to captain one of these 2 pitchers tonight.
Steve, who are you going with?
I'm going to go with Juan Soto. I don't trust Verlander at all. I know Gary said we might see vintage Verlander tonight. We haven't seen it through the entire playoff run so far. He's looked abysmal. 6 home runs allowed already. Look at the numbers for Juan Soto. He's been so good on the road against righties. 406 WOBA, 302 isolated power, 150 WRC plus. Verlander, 10 home runs allowed to lefties at home during the regular season. I think he gets shelled tonight.
Who we fading, Garion?
Well, funny you should ask. I'm fading Juan Soto. If you look at the 170-plus pitchers who faced at least 150 left-handed batters this season, Justin Verlander has the lowest expected WOBA at 229. He's also struck out 39% of the left-handers he's faced. 10 home runs is great, I guess. That's a lot of home runs, sort of. But, yeah, that's the stat Steve used because there are no good stats about left-handed bats hitting off of Verlander this season.
Steven?
Yeah, Gary's not going to win you any money tonight. So, I mean, if you're on that route, by all means, listen to Gary tonight. I'm going to be fading Carlos Correa. He's just had an absolutely brutal playoffs. 167 batting average throughout the playoffs here. He only has 10 hits. 6 of them have gone for extra bases. So at least when he's making contact and he's finding some green, he is making them count. But I think people are just going to be simply rostering him because he's a name. He's cheaper than usual, but he's lower in the batting order for a reason. I think Correa's a stay away from me this week.
All right. Okay, Pierce, who you staying away from?
I'm going to stay away from Verlander. As Steve already mentioned, 6 home runs in this postseason, 36 home runs allowed this year, 18.2 launch angle. It's one of the worst in baseball. He can have a good game tonight, but if he gives up a home run, you're going to dig yourself a hole, and you're also going to be playing from behind because you're going to give up a home run to someone who's rostered Nationals bats. Verlander's the fate. He can have a good game, but he's going to let one go out of the ballpark.
All right, hook us up with some value here, Steve.
Yeah, I'm going to be going with Sean Doolittle. He's been one of their best relievers out of that bullpen that, we worry so much about. 9 1/3 innings throughout the playoffs. Only 2 runs allowed on 5 hits and 8 strikeouts. If you believe the Nationals are going to win this game, Doolittle's either going to be setting up the closer or closing the game because he and Daniel Hudson have been kind of switching off on closing the games here. So if you like the Nationals to win, Doolittle makes a lot of sense here.
Pierce, value, please.
Well, I'll follow Steve, and I will take Will Harris out of the bullpen. 10 games, 11 strikeouts, only 5 hits, no runs allowed. He works really well. If you're going to fade Verlander, then that means the bullpen is going to come in. Also, if you're playing some of those national bats to score off of Verlander, then it makes sense to take an Astros bullpen reliever, and Harris is going to get in the game tonight.
Garion, value.
I will say that if you're captaining Verlander like I am, you pretty much have to put Roberto Osuna in your lineup. The correlation just makes too much sense. But if you want a cheap-ish Astros bat, who I just think is undervalued, he should be in the 8K range. Yuli Gurriel has quietly been on fire the last 6 games. He's found his stroke after looking terrible in that Yankees series on a 6-game hit streak. In the final 3 months of the regular season, he had a 199 WRC plus and a 350 ISO in right-on-right matchups. It's a good righty in Strasburg, but it's still a righty.
We got Bobby Mallory on Facebook saying he thinks Verlander breaks through tonight. How about that, guys?
It's nice to have an opinion, but you're wrong.
Oh, wow.
Wow, Steve, coming in hot.
Come on, dude.
Okay.
Come on, be nice.
I'm sure he's a nice guy.
We expect this thing to go to 7. Who thinks it will? We have like 30 seconds to go.
Raise your
here.
hand.
No.
No.
Pierce?
Pierce.
Nice, Pierce.
No.
You know what? A good value bet. Bet on the Nationals. If you like the Nationals to win this game, bet on the Nationals to win the series because anything can happen in Game 7.
Okay, well, good advice there from Steve.
I guess we'll see you all
also,
in the Twitter
check out my
streets.
Twitter. I just tweeted out a pic of Jessie choking a dog.
Okay, that was taken out of context.
What was that, Matt?
This show will be back to an hour tomorrow, so
Oh.
we'll see you tomorrow at 6, okay?
Okay.